In my how to set up a saltwater aquarium video, I told you I would tell you what the costs were, and today I'm going to do exactly that. The individual pieces of kit will be in pounds sterling, but at the end I will do a total cost in pounds sterling, euros, US dollars and dollars Australian. I'll also talk you through some of the things you should look out for if you want to buy some of this kit secondhand. Before we get into that, if you're new here, I put out a video every week with tips on how to set up and maintain an awesome reef tank. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on anything. Right, let's get stuck in. Now, while I did set this out to be a budget build, I didn't set out to make it the cheapest way possible into reef keeping. Rather, it's what I consider to be a relatively cheap way into the hobby while still getting good quality equipment and a tank with a sump without spending thousands of pounds, which unfortunately is easily done. For example, if you were to buy a Red Sea Reef 250 with brand new mid-range equipment, it would set you back around £3,500. For this build then, first up is the tank. I bought a second-hand Aqua 1 Mini Reef 120 for £90 and it was an absolute bargain. In good condition, this tank would have cost up to £250, which is what I paid for the exact same tank around 4 years ago. This tank was cheap though because it was filthy, and I would encourage you to look for unclean tanks because they're so cheap and because they're also so easy to clean. Just fill the tank with water and vinegar or citric acid and the dirt will fall off. This one did have a little water damage to the cabinet, a little bit is fine, but I'd avoid any more serious water damage as it can look ugly. And the other thing to look for is big scratches. Minor scratches on tanks won't be visible when there's water in the tank, but big scratches will, and will always draw your eye. As a Brucey bonus, the tank came with an aquarium cover, which saved me £40, and little extras like that are always handy. For lighting, I went for a Gen 4 Radion XR15, which cost me £200. It's not the latest model, but you really don't need the latest model, and this will be fine for any coral you want to keep in this tank, so you will never have to upgrade your light. Lighting is important in a reef tank, but it's much less important than you think for your first reef tank, so in my opinion any of the mainstream brands will be absolutely fine, and I wouldn't be too fussy about which light you get. And if you do buy second hand, just take a close look at the LEDs to make sure they all light up and none are faulty. Next we have the Skimmer. I went for a Bubble Magus Curve 5, which was just £45. Again, I didn't go looking for this particular skimmer, I just chose the best deal. And if you're not fussy, you will of course get a better deal. The most common issues to check for with skimmers are cracks to the body, and make sure you ask the seller if it's noisy. Buzzy skimmers can ruin your enjoyment of a tank. For flow, I went for a Ecotech SOW4, which cost just £35. With power heads, I'd avoid anything more than a couple of years old as they can wear out, and make sure you check the impeller when you get it because they can swell and burst through their plastic housing, which is game over. I bought Red Sea sand brand new for £40. I personally wouldn't bother buying second hand sand as it will probably have mega bad stuff in it which you would need to clean extremely thoroughly, and if you just chuck in second hand to your tank it will give you a nasty ammonia spike which could very easily kill your livestock. If you do buy cheaper sand than this, just make sure you run a magnet through it to remove any metal particles and that you give it a good rinse in tap water before it goes in. For rock, I went brand new again with real reef rock, but just 11 kilos of this stuff set me back £163, and if you buy second hand live rock from another hobbyist, you will pay around £5 per kilo, which is a third of the price I paid. Spotting pests on second-hand rock is extremely difficult, especially if you're new, so you may well get Aiptasia anemones or nuisance algae, but if the rock has been kept in water, you'll also get the benefit of biodiversity, and true live rock, not just second-hand man-made rock, is excellent filtration. For the return pump, I went Eheim and got this compact 3000 litre per hour unit for £50. If you're getting a reliable brand like Eheim or Siche, you've probably got nothing to worry about and they will last you for years, but do check to see if they're noisy before you buy. My auto top off was a spare Reefloat Pro 3 I had lying around, but I would have had to pay around £50 for this second hand. Some of the cheaper brands don't last very long, and the water level sensor on any of these is the most likely point of failure. But if you can get a Tunzi second hand, again you will have nothing to worry about. The last thing I bought second hand was a heating controller. This Simply Aquaria controller cost me £30, but you can get brand new Inkbird units for the same money, so new might be a better option. Then I bought new cooling fans for £20 and a new heater for £20. Second-hand fans will probably have rust damage, and heaters are just so important that it's not worth risking a second-hand purchase. Finally then, I bought a bottle of starter bacteria for £10 and a pair of clownfish for £39. Second-hand fish are a really good purchase as they're more likely to be settled into captivity. Just make sure you ask the owner if they've been aggressive, nipped at any corals, or have been in a tank that's had signs of fish parasites. The grand total of all of that then is £787, which is 873 euros, 1,067 US dollars, or $1,375 Australian. And that is an awful lot of money for a budget build, and just shows you how expensive the hobby can be. You could probably get that figure below £600 if you went for second-hand rock and maybe a cheaper light, but generally speaking the best way to go cheaper is to go smaller or for a tank without a sump, which will cost you a lot less money. If you're new to saltwater tanks, let me know in the comments section if that's the kind of price you were expecting, or if you thought it was going to be a little bit more or a little bit less. And if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for next week, and until next time, happy reefing.